Arundel and Andy. So, moving quite along, we'll get into the debate very quickly, so I won't waffle too much. But I'd really like to introduce our new members to the Chamber. For those who haven't paid their dues are due. That's reminding you. Without your subscriptions, it makes it more difficult for us to represent you and to keep the wheels turning. The new members who aren't present is FRC Environmental, Tom Thorogood and his team. Bayside Business Consulting in Cleveland. Busy at work at Springwood. Birch Carr and Coral Cinemas in Calabar. It's great to see that diversity of cinemas build a can contribute to the chamber. And balanced business looking out into Calabar. So our new members who are here are going to quickly speak. The first one is from Run Media, Mr. Luke Brown.
G'day, my name's Luke. I'm from Run Media. I've been in business for about 10 years and we specialise in helping businesses tell their story online. We do that through primarily video production. So we help businesses create cost-effective videos, and obviously video is a great way to drive traffic to your website online. And we also do it through sales and marketing automation through Fusionsoft, which is a titled CRM for small business. It allows you to automate actions, capture leads, and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Thank you.
There's a guy with great encapsulated statement. Absolutely fantastic. We have Mr. Rinda Sahita from the Bar Commercial Business Series.
Rinda Sahita, my sister Sharon G here down the front. Sharon, everybody probably knows or has been touched by the flower farm in some respect over the years, the big pink flower shed in Redlands. We're going on here about 35 years. The guard's changing over. I'm the youngest in the family. Sharon's in there. She used to be an accountant. She studied with me at the coast. Pardon me. And has taken over the retail side. I started life as a corporate lawyer. Now wear 3 hats a week for the days I'm in court as a barrister. Farmer's cap on the farm and a hard hat. Well, the family actually runs together landscaping supplies as well. So we're trying to integrate both of them. I guess we've got a lot of contacts out there and a lot of new ways of doing work. Having re-established Tingalpa Landscape Supplies as well is trying the new marketing approaches. So we'd like to share a lot of what we've done and learn from you guys as well. As Mum and Dad slowly hand over the reins to us. Yeah. That's us. Thank you.
What a combination. We have Phil Robinson from the Redlands Museum.
Thanks, Gary. Good morning, all. We have been told many, many times by visitors to the museum that we have the most fantastic regional museum in Australia. Have you been? It is fabulous, so please come. But today, what I'd like to do, if you are a member of the museum, one of the things we're doing is looking outside the 4 walls. That's why we're a member of the Chamber now. But we are redoing our business plan for the next 5 years, and we have a meeting on Saturday from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock where we'd like our members to help us develop a fantastic business plan for the best museum in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. That's a great example of not-for-profit getting involved in the business community, and we certainly, as the City Chamber, like to reciprocate with that, try and get involved. And certainly the Redlands Museum is a great attribute for us, and certainly my business is looking forward to working with lots of places with the museums in the near future. We have TBC Tax from Jeffrey Ostrowski. Jeffrey Ostrowski. He's not here. Sorry about that. Anyway, we welcome Jeffrey. Open Property Management, Joanna Day. I have to check to see if she was here as well. I've found that one. We have retained recruitment, Ben Sutherby. He's not speaking, but thank you very much, Ben, for becoming part of our community. And we have a good friend of mine, all the way from South Brisbane now. He's moved down to Redlands City, Mark Misty with On Show.
Right. Mark Misty, On Show. We do signage, displays, trade shows, exhibitions, printing, promotional products. Anytime you want to be on show, that's us. So we've got a business card drawer on the front where today we're giving away a premium retractable banner. So it's an ideal opportunity to get yourself prepared for the Redlands Expo coming up in May. So if you haven't thought about the Expo as yet, start putting your thinking cap on and seeing how you can present yourself at the Redlands Expo. Anyway, Mark Liskey, On Show. Thank you.
Happy with that, some cross promotion as well. Okay, I'm just going to give my president's report. I'll keep it short and brief as usual. Once again, thanks very much to all our sponsors, and it really is your sponsorship within the who keeps us going. I did have the salutary experience of going to the last meeting of the Wynnum District Chamber of Commerce last night, and they followed up, and it's very easy for a not-for-profit organisation to crash and burn. And particularly when I was in the room last night, and I said, well, it's like old Aunt Mary dying. No one ever went and saw Aunt Mary, but sorry, when she went, missed her afterwards. And it certainly does fill, or does leave a big void when an organisation such as Chamber of Commerce folds up, which has happened in the Chamber. So thanks very much for your patronage in this room, because it's only the members that make the Chamber of Commerce work. And certainly thanks very much to our sponsors, because that's really what keeps us going. And certainly was a lesson about not-for-profits and the responsibilities that the committee members take on, which probably not particularly time so we're looking for new committee members for next year, but it really brought home to me the contribution that the committee makes and the sacrifices they make, because everyone's very busy running their own business, and everyone's got a lot of things to do, and for people to give up their time for not-for-profit, there's absolutely no money in being on the committee of the Chamber of Commerce, but it is a belief in trying to improve business in Redlands City and to make a difference. So thank you very much for all the committee members we've had today. It really brought home to me. It's great to see such a large number here, and shows a high level of interest in our local politics in Redlands City. We're really looking forward to hearing some mayoral candidates. Certainly Redlands has a vibrant political process, certainly at a local level, and I'm never quite sure whether that's good or bad. We have this general apathy, mostly when it comes to politics, and which I still think we do have. Redlands, men and men, we've got some vibrancy in the debate. A lot of it's not necessarily positive. Certainly if you stick on social media, which I don't, but I'm told it happens, can become quite an acrimonious situation, which is a shame. It really is a shame, and we certainly hope that it's going to stop in the near future. Both candidates, I would say, a personal friend of mine. And I suppose that reflects on the Redlands City and all, even though we are all passionate, we all come from different avenues. I think everyone actually can say that we are all friends and all are part of the community. I think that's what really sets Redlands apart from a lot of other areas. Whilst we do have far too much acrimony, I think people know each other, they understand each other, and at the end of the day, I think we do get good results. To have two candidates like this, we're very fortunate to have two high-level candidates of this calibre running, and we really interested to hear what they have to say. Despite popular belief to the contrary, business has got no interest in politics at all. It really isn't. Business just wants certainty. That's all it wants is consistency. It wants to know the rules, it wants to understand the rules and move on. And that's at all levels of government. At the end of the day, 80% of ordinary investment in Redlands City and in Australia is going to be small businesses and going to be in the private sector. Over 80, more like 85% of all new jobs will be in the private sector, and the majority of them, once again, will be small businesses like yourselves. That's the engine room. It's that's where we get our standard of living from. It's there where the economy goes forward with our backwards. The real point from the Chamber's point of view is that the government sets the rules. We want them to remove the uncertainty and let business and the community get on with the job. I think that's the message that the Chamber finds. One of the forgotten parts about next Saturday is that we're going to have a referendum on 4-year terms. I must admit with the shenanigans going on in the Queensland Parliament, I question whether that's going to get up or not at the moment. Certainly CCIQ's point of view, CCIQ has been making very strong push to get the 4-year terms and get fixed terms. So please think seriously before when you're making this vote. Once again, business just wants to certainly want to be able to get on and do our job. Now, next Saturday is very important for Redlands City, but it's much more important for some of us in this room, particularly one. Election coming up, and that's on next Monday with the AGM of the Redlands City Chamber of Commerce. So I'd ask you all to come along and cast your vote, hopefully for a new chairman, but also the committee for next year. It's on at the Grandview clock, free for members and $10 for non-members. A few finger foods and a few drinks afterwards. So please come along and be part of the Redlands City Chamber annual general meeting. If you can, join the committee. We do have a good time. We do make a difference, and your support would be certainly appreciated. So please give that some thought and come along and help us make Redlands the best place to do business in Australia. I'd really like to acknowledge Lynn Sturge, I saw her over there with her hair shaved, so well done, Lynn. I really hope I'm not going to get a great day. Okay, thanks very much again for attending. Enjoy your breakfast, and I'll hand you over to our moderator, Mr. John McCarthy. And sorry, don't forget to fill out those questions on your table and give them to myself or Linda during the first webinar.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. When you're doing those questions, if you'd like to direct them to a candidate or to both candidates, so we know who you'd like to answer the question. Naomi, did you have something that you that Greg wanted me to read before I start? You did, yeah. Before yes, Gary, you want some back? No, you said you didn't want to be answered.
Not much of an MC, am I? Also, Naomi has a business card drawer. There should be a bucket somewhere around the place. Please put your card, big glass bowl in the corner there. Please put your business card in there. We have a prize being a $50 voucher and a bottle of wine at Plus County Restaurant. Thank you very much for in the Plus County team for this.
I was out, Gary, whether it's possible to put 20 cards in. If you could do that. As many as you like it. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a long history with the Chamber of Commerce. I joined it in 1980 when it was on the eve of folding, and I didn't realise the first meeting I went to was actually the annual general meeting. They said, if we can't get a president, we're going to fold. And everybody looked at me and I ended up president. My first meeting, I had no idea what a Chamber of Commerce was, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So we've had an association with the Chamber for a very long time. The machinations that the Chamber went through before I joined it was a debate between whether it was a facilitator of communication with government or whether it was combative with government. In fact, some sort of opposition in waiting. And I think when it takes the view that it's the opposition in waiting, it wanes. If it takes the view that it's a communication between the business community and its political representatives, then it has traction and it has meaning. And I think that's why it's so successful in the Redlands today. Meetings such as this, I think the earliest one I can remember of having a candidate's day was probably in the mid-80s, 83 or 84 or something. And we had a very modest turnout, but it became an annual feature. And I think business leaders look forward to having this interaction with the people who will affect their lives. So this morning it gives me great pleasure to introduce a debate which will be anything like an American Republican Party debate. Although there was a protester outside before, but it was a bit cheekish and went away. I also should point out that Mr. Greg Underwood was interviewed with Karen Williams on radio yesterday morning, and Spencer Howson asked if he was anything like his namesake, Underwood of House of Cards fame, and Greg to his credit said he'd never heard of it. I'm speaking to him this morning, he tells me he's the antithesis of that corrupt character. Don't you worry about that. Now, our first speaker today is Greg Underwood. He has 30 years' experience as a senior engineer, planner and infrastructure manager in local and state government and in the private sector. He believes he has the right skills and experience to take on the role of mayor. He's thrown his hat into the electoral ring because he contends that balance must be restored to the Redlands if it's to retain its livability and character. He shares the concerns of many residents that we need better designed neighbourhoods, less density in many of our developments, a real approach to our worsening traffic congestion, and much better care and attention to our special part in the world. Working as Redlands City General Manager of Planning and Policy for 7 years, Greg understands the local Redlands issues and community values. In his presentation today, he'll go over the key issues the community has been raising with him and explain what he'd do differently if elected mayor. Restoring community confidence in council is also another of Greg's goals. He will pay for his own election campaign, putting an end to conflicts of interest with vested interest groups. He pledges to lead a united, ethical and transparent council if elected. Please welcome Mr. Greg Underwood.
Thanks, John. Thank Gary for that introduction as well. It is true that Gary is actually friends with both Karen and myself and over a long period of time. After that introduction, I probably don't need to say too much about myself, but on that screen there, it pretty much says what I've done for the last 30 years, and that's been involved in public government and state government, and also with consulting engineers in Sydney for a few years. Also, I was in Cairns for a number of years. In fact, I was 6 years with Mulgrave Shire and then 6 years in the amalgamated Cairns City, which was Mulgrave and Cairns combined. And during that time, I did a lot of infrastructure projects, but two of the big things that I did in terms of, I guess, forward planning was the Cairns Esplanade project. I did all the consultation and design on that project, and the new integrated planning scheme for Cairns, which was the Mulgrave and Cairns combined local authorities. So I guess that's just about my background, and certainly I'll take questions after this if you want to ask me more questions about what I've done. Well, the reason I'm standing for mayor is probably I'm a bit concerned about some of the planning decisions that have been made recently and around my area of Redland Bay. So based on those couple of concerns, I thought, well, maybe I should put my experience over a long period of time and with this council and put my hand up and say, well, I'm prepared to have a go at doing the job as mayor. I'm confident that I can do the job as mayor, but also I have that background and experience that gives me the, I guess, the confidence to know how to deal with politicians and senior bureaucrats, etc., to get things done and to get the best results. And I do have a knowledge of the Redlands. I've been living here for 10 years and working with the council for around 7. One of the things that's been raised by many people is basically the draft city plan. There's a number of submissions on that, but probably more than that, people see things happening, and it's not always the council's fault that things don't happen correctly. But sometimes you can get a different result with one council compared to a previous council. Now there was some criticisms of the past of delayed timeframes, etc., with the previous council, and that needed to be addressed without question. But I don't think that the timeframes are the be all and the end all. we've got to get a good product at the end of the day. So making sure that we actually get that product is what's most important to the community and to myself. Housing densities, again, the new draft plan is tending to drop those areas of land down, those allotment sizes down. And I think we need to look at whether that's what the community actually wants, or whether we should be doing something a bit different. And one that's dear to my heart, the balance of the rural area, which I think is a major issue as to how we deal with that rural area to the south of the city between Redlands Bay and the Logan River. So the question really is, strategically, do we want to fill that up with more urban housing? I'm sure the state probably not care too much. They probably want to see a build of houses. But my view is we should try and plan that for perhaps retaining some rural character and not just dealing with houses. Otherwise, it become a suburb of Brisbane. Which follows on to the next point, Masters of Our Own Destiny. That means we basically need to design our area, both that rural area and our urban area, for the long, ultimate future of the Redlands. So that means looking at a long-term view on population, the ultimate population, and where we're heading in terms of what type of development in the current urban areas and in the future of rural zones. Road congestion. One of the things about adding more and more houses on is that we end up with more and more congestion and less livability. Do we want to keep on continuing having a reduction in livability across the city, or do we want to try and make some change to retain livability? And my view is we need to try and maintain our livability. Not really the state's fault, but they haven't got much money. And I haven't seen any major money come to the council in 10 years. The last major project I can recall, which was funded by Main Roads, was probably the four laning of Capella back towards Victoria Point. And that's a fair while back. And the other recent project is probably the one the council got, which is on Rickett Road, the four lane of Rickett Road. So we're not getting big money from the state injected from a transport or a state road point of view. So therefore, we need to take control of the process. So taking control of the process is limiting the amount of urban density and rural expansion and investing in our own roads. So I certainly wouldn't be giving money to the Main Roads Department to fund their problems. My view is that we need to actually invest in our own road system. And two of our own main roads, arterial roads, for want of a better word, that are actually owned by council, are the Victoria Point bypass, which is a Springacre Road double jump road connection that goes behind Victoria Point, which would definitely ease traffic congestion through Victoria Point to a large degree and along Redland Bay Road, and also invest in the Panorama Drive Wellington Street arterial, which connects from Boundary Road Prospect Cleveland as well. So there's a number of other locations that we actually look at improvements, but I've just listed the major ones there for discussion points today. The governance of council, that's something that I've been close to over my many years of working as a senior bureaucrat. So I know a little bit about how to set up an organisation and run it properly. Not that everything that's being done at the moment is not being done properly, but I think some things perhaps aren't being done the way that I would like them to be done. And I think the community plan that was prepared under my control, under my responsibility some years ago, has tended to be let go to some degree. And I'd love to see that community plan empowered back into the corporate plan, so we can clearly say to the community that these decisions are following along a line of what the community has been consulted on. All councillors involved in major decisions. Now, I'm not on the inside of the organisation, but there's certainly some concerns about councillors not being involved in all major decision making in the council. If I'm elected, one of my views is to try and unite the council better and make certain that all councillors feel like they've been involved in decision making. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all going to be happy with the decision, but they often say, well, we were there, we saw what happened, and we didn't agree with it. There's been some mention about surpluses. It seems to be, from my point of view, a surplus has been considered as something of unspent budget money. My view is if you get $100 million to spend on capital works, you spend your $100 million. There's only two ways to do it. You spend $100 million, or you ask for less money in the first place. So to have money left over partway through the year or at the end of the budget to call it a surplus, it's not really a surplus. Now, that's my understanding what the surplus has been called, but I could be wrong. One of the first things I would do, if elected, I would look at the financial position and have an audit done for the budget. Remember, the budget's got to be completed by June, July of this year, and I don't know much about the internals of the organisation at this stage. So clearly I'll need to make myself aware of that and the new council, so we can make decisions going forward on the capital works program and the services program for the forthcoming year. Rates, I've clearly said in my policy statements that I'll follow the local government price index on rates. So whatever that comes up with will be my recommendation to the council. I just thought I'd throw in dump fees there because they've been mentioned on some of the signs around the place. I think aimed at me or the Melbourne Council from the past. There's no intention for me to change the arrangements that are in place now for dump fees. So they'll continue the way they are. Some other issues of importance. The last chamber meeting in November last year, I spoke to the same room, or different room actually. But I said that I would love to create an enterprise area next to Boundary Road, Redlands, between Springacre Road and Taylor Road, and down to the Upper Park Creek, Boundary Creek down there. So that's one of the things that is dear to my heart, and it's been dear to my heart for about 10 years. It's very important to try and create long-term job opportunities. And that's something we have to start to do over a long period of time. We are continuing to add or have a fixation with adding residential housing, and we've got plenty of places where we put more houses in the city, but we haven't created opportunities for self-sustainability. And that's what we need to do. We need to get more self-sustainable so we don't get everyone leaving the place in the morning, coming back in peak hour. That is a major issue for the city, and it obviously adds to the needs for state road upgrades that will leave the city and take people away from the Redlands. They've got their change the dormitory suburb status, and that's what we've become. We've always been a dormitory suburb of Brisbane, and we're continuing on that same line if we keep on building residential housing. We need to change that dimension and go towards more self-sustainability, which means more industry activities. And I don't think I'll be too particular about what sort of industry we put in that area, but it needs to be not related perhaps to just trades and services, but more new jobs for the area. And that's a large marketing thing that needs to be done to try and create that master plan for that area that generates new jobs rather than just trades and services and retail jobs. I thought I mentioned Toowoomba Harbour. It's one of those things that's a bit of an issue for a large part of the community. I have not seen the infrastructure agreement with the council, but clearly if I get elected, then I'll be privy to that confidential information, and I'll be able to make an assessment about what commitments we've made by the council and whether we can change that at all. If possible, I'd like to scale back the oversized residential component of that project. My view is the residential component should be on the foreshore that exists there, should be going to the GJ Water Park, should remain a large marina in the water, and should have marine facilities in the water, but we shouldn't have apartment buildings all over that population area. One of the things that's failed by including that there is, one, there's been no consultation on the inclusion of residential component, and secondly, the cost of building those buildings in that particular zone is very expensive. The foundations of those buildings would likely be taller than the buildings themselves. So the whole viability in my mind is a bit questionable, but I'm not close to the actual construction details because they haven't been done yet. And I'm not close to the infrastructure agreement because I haven't seen that either at this stage. But yes, I do intend, if possible, to further community consultation and I'm looking to reduce the scale of the project somewhat. And the last item on my list there is if we're going to invest further money in the Redlands, I would invest more money in land sporting facilities. That's one of the things that's been, I think, pushed back in time in the current works program of council. And if I want to inject funding somewhere or borrow money to do something, it would be putting it towards land sporting facilities as well as the road infrastructure program I mentioned earlier. think that's pretty much all I've got. So I'd just like to emphasise that my view on going forward is basically a view of further community consultation that was currently happening with the council, and that connection between the community plan and the people is the way to go forward in terms of getting things done for the county council. Thanks for your time this morning, and I'll take questions later on.
Thanks, Greg. That was very well delivered and very informative. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very difficult to introduce Karen Williams because everybody's probably met her several times, but I'll give it a shot. Karen, as you know, she's been a councillor for 12 years, 4 of those as mayor. She's a local girl. She's been here all her life. She came into the council when it had gone through a particularly difficult period, and she's here today, standing on that record and offering you her view of the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Karen Williams.
Thank you, John, and good morning, everyone. One of the interesting things I discovered yesterday, thanks to Spencer Housen, was that I'm the only female mayoral candidate south of Sunshine Coast. And so for all the girls here, I'm telling you, it's not about gender, it's about the agenda. And so I'm here standing before you today with a plan for the next 4 years. A plan that continues to deliver a vision for this city, it creates jobs, it raises the standard of living and secures opportunity, most importantly, for our younger and future generations of Redlands. Those people who want to stay, play and invest in our great city. I also stand before you today with my report card, some of this, and I ask you to consider my performance, my energy, my commitment, and my ability to drive the vision that this city needs. It's not a vision to go back to what we had 4 years ago. It's a vision that we have to adopt and input for 40 years in the future. So when marking my report card, I want you to understand a couple of things. These results haven't occurred just by chance. It's been a concerted effort, hard work, with the support of a very steady organisation and a small majority of councillors who have brought their own ideas to the table, understood that collaboration and compromise was essential in driving the things that you told me 4 or 5 years ago were important to this city. And now, I'm asking you for your support for the next 4 years to make sure Redlands stays on track. So let's just focus on some of those subjects we signed up for in the 2012 elections. My promises to you back then was a back to basics plan. Keep rates at CPI or below. The previous council saw cumulative rate increases of 40%. You told me it was hurting your business, and you told me it was hurting your back pocket. Over the last 4 years, this council has kept rates below Brisbane CPI, under 9% for the 4 years compared to the 40% previously. You told me you didn't like domestic tip fees. They're gone. Tick. You told me to streamline the organisation. We went from 5 senior managers to 3 senior managers, and we have streamlined the organisation. It's more effective, and we're doing more for less. Tick. Control council debt. We are $25 million better off in our no net debt position. Tick. Cut red tape, making it easier for you to do business. We reduced the number of local laws, and we continue to work with council, the community, the business community, to make sure you have all the opportunities to invest further in your business and provide jobs for the future for our children and grandchildren. Tick. Maintain and better manage population targets. We don't control growth, council, but we have to manage it. And we're currently right in the middle of the process of reviewing our planning scheme. It's been 2 years of work. The people have spoken, and we're yet to actually make determinations based on those submissions. But it's almost half a tick. So look, I began my term back in 2012 with a strong desire to deliver on those promises I made to you. And nearly 70% of Redlanders supported me in that endeavour. But to do that, I needed to change the culture of the organisation, and I took 2 core approaches: the back to basics philosophy, and also a commitment that Redlands would be open for business. And that's important to you in this room, those people who invest every day in making sure we have services and products in our city, and you don't have to leave Redlands to have a job. So my goal was to move the organisation from a slow, bureaucratic and process-based vehicle, the vehicle that I inherited, into a faster, more flexible and solution-oriented business focused on outcomes, not processes, outcomes, that delivered efficiencies and savings, but most importantly, put people first. So I empowered the executives of Redlands City Council to think creatively and start to think outside of the box, because that's what you have to do in business to be successful. It's no secret that the elected council has not been easy to manage, excuse me, with most of the very important issues being decided often by a majority of one. I cannot stress to you how important it is, despite every candidate that's running for election right now is independent, but there has to be an opportunity for us to work as a team. And when people vote against the things that you told me were important to you back in 2012, like keeping rates low, the lowest rate increases in South East Queensland, like getting rid of tip fees, like bringing us into surplus, when people vote against that, you have to ask why. Because you told everyone that was important in 2012. Along the way, we've achieved other things by being innovative and thinking outside the square. Yes, traffic congestion is an issue. Has been for quite some time. The growth you're seeing right now isn't the decisions of this council, it's decisions of previous councils and state governments. And people tell me that the biggest issue about development is traffic congestion. Much of it's caused outside of our boundaries, believe it or not, for those of you who travel on Ricketts Road, or those who try to get out of Redlands and you get stuck in the Gateway on-ramp at Old Cleveland Road. So how do we fix that for Redlands? Well, we can't just sit back here and think that our neighbours are going to actually, throw some money in the bucket to help us in Redlands. But we have to be collaborative. And I initiated the very first cross-boundary transport working group that brings all three levels of government together, including the Brisbane City Council. And we start coordinating and collaborating so we deliver projects in a timely way that saves money for everybody. And just recently, Lord Mayor Graham Quirk, or Tim Quirk, announced a $15 million investment in Green Camp Road, which will help people in the long term in delivering an improvement on traffic congestion outside of Ricketts Road. And of course, there are some other opportunities that we've all touched on, and these are some of the divisive elements, I suppose, in our community at the moment. The two PDAs, they didn't happen just because the state government thought Redlands was worthy. I knocked on the door of the then Deputy Premier and I said, we have a problem at Tuna Harbour. We have a plan that we've been trying to deliver for 50 years in this city, and we can't get the state to come on board. We need some legislation to empower it, to give confidence to investors, to make sure that Tuna Harbour and Wyndham Creek happen. And from that, we've got two of the first three priority development areas in this city. And the best thing about Tuna Harbour, despite what people might be saying, is that it's going to cost you nothing. In fact, it's going to be $116 million of community infrastructure, delivering a marina, increasing the foreshore access. It's going to make sure you've got boardwalks, and it's going to be a regional tourism destination. $116 million worth of community infrastructure that nobody has to pay for. I think that's impressive because this city hasn't seen that opportunity before. And of course, when I'm out there spruiking Redlands, I see opportunities and I grab them. For example, Surf Life Saving Headquarters coming to Redlands. It's almost a reality. Simply because I was sitting at a table and someone said, we're moving our headquarters from South Brisbane, and I said, pick me. What do you need? We want to build a community pool. I said, we need to build a community pool. Come on down. Those things don't just happen by chance. You have to be out there looking for those opportunities. Now that facility, on top of the 1,000 jobs a year that you're going to get at Tuna Harbour, is going to deliver around 200 jobs for Redlands, right here, potentially in Cleveland. Not only that, it's a centre of excellence for surf lifesaving. People will come from all over the world and experience Redlands, if and when we get surf lifesaving headquarters here in Redlands. And I believe that Council will be in a position to make that happen. Just as we did with the Australian Industry Trade College, and I recognise they're here today, I want to congratulate the ARTC. 96 students in their first year. They thought they were going to get 30. In the first 3 weeks, they had 5 apprentices signed up with local businesses. You told me you couldn't get apprentices to work in this city. You wanted that training to happen. It's happening. And it's a really exciting time for young people to have that opportunity. It's an exciting time for industry that they can be employing our young people. Shoreline, we've discussed that. It's been 12 years in the making. It didn't just happen last week. It's Redlands' first master plan community. It will offer the sporting fields that we're told we should be paying for. It will offer the other infrastructure, $100 million worth of road infrastructure. Once again, at no cost to you. On those roads you tell me are a pain in the bum getting from Redland Bay to Cleveland. And we need to maximise and leverage of that. And of course that brings another 1,000 or 1,500 jobs per annum for the next 15 to 25 years. It's a long-term project as is turned up. So I've talked about some of the opportunities we've grabbed and we're trying to turn into a great opportunity for you as business. But most importantly, these opportunities will provide a better future for our kids, for our children, the very children who now cannot presently find affordable places to live in this city, who have to leave the city every day to get a job or to study. And I maintain that I do not want our children to be our greatest exports because they are the future. But aside from opportunity, this city needs stability. Particularly now, for those of you who might be following the financial markets and it's getting a bit shaky, we need at least one level of government that's got its hands on the levers and has good financial control. We cannot afford to go back to the tail wagging the dog bureaucracy that saw that 40% cumulative rate increase over 4 years under the Hobson administration. Interestingly, in recent paraphernalia by my opponent, even this morning, frankly, we've been chastised for getting a surplus. I've seen it all. For those of us who have run our own businesses, and I did that for 10 years, and I grew up on a family farm, that was a business as well. If you spend more than you earn, you will ultimately go broke. True? Yes. So I made no excuses for changing the culture of the organisation, just thought it was easy just to whack the rates up. Because we have an ageing population. They have limited income. We have to think about them while we try to drive forward our future. And just to clarify a couple of other statements, our no net debt position. Our current cash position, as of January, was $134 million. Our debt position is $54 million. You do the math. We have improved our no net debt position by $25 million, despite delivering the lowest rate increases in South East Queensland and delivering two, and soon to be a third, surplus budget. We did investigate retiring all of our debt, but unfortunately previous councils locked us into pools of long-term term debt. That meant that if we were to pay that off, we would be penalised and it wouldn't be any impact or positive impact to our ratepayer. Overall, we've delivered our 10-year financial strategy recently that provides a strong financial outlook for this city and projected ongoing surpluses. So, as we heard earlier, though it might seem too good to be true and we need to do another audit, the fact is that every single year local government gets their books audited by the Queensland Audit Office. I don't know anyone else has to go through that process, but it's a fairly thorough process. And we've had excellent reports and they're all publicly available. So interesting as you read through some of the paraphernalia out there in election time, some old school bureaucrats continue to judge their success on the amount of money being spent on a program rather than the success of an output. Those in business know that customer satisfaction is key and also delivering more with less is very important. Just a couple of examples of how we've done things differently outside of the box. Getting more output for less input. Point Lookout wastewater treatment plant was going to cost us $17 million. It's important we had to make sure we met the environmental credentials required by the state. It's now going to be delivered for 20% less, under $13 million. That's because we encourage our officers to think outside the square. Another great example is our road program on the Southern Bay Islands. Previously gold-plated and would have taken 70 years to complete the whole program. We're now delivering 7 times more road for exactly the same, in fact less investment, which means 10 years to deliver the same amount of roads. But I'm committing to delivering that in a shorter period of time because I know we have officers that think outside the square. So previously also in operational budgets, we just kept hiking up the rates. But recently we're saving $1 million a year on our operational budget by just treating our leachate differently at our dumps. And we're also saving $20,000 a month on our printing contracts. That's because we empower the organisation to do things differently. 7 most expensive words in business. We have always done it that way. And I have tried to make sure that your organisation understands local government, all government has to start doing things differently. And I think there's some success in that approach. So today I passionately believe that Redlands stands on the cusp of many, many great opportunities. Fantastic opportunities. But they require leadership and they require vision. So it's very easy for my critics to claim that I am single-handedly responsible for everything they dislike, even if it's not in council's control. They even vote against the things you told me are important. Low rate increases, surplus budgets, tip fees, etc. But it takes leadership and strength of purpose to build relationships. It takes leadership to identify opportunities, and then you need to pitch as hard as you bloody well can to make sure you get the outcome that you want, the community wants, despite any opposition, and we all know there's been plenty of that. So my opposition mayoral candidate has presented to you with what he calls his plan this morning. Some of that reflects the opposition I've seen from outside of council, the unelected opposition and the elected opposition. But the only plan I have seen presented resembles a list of issues. It's designed to stop everything that we've achieved, perhaps return us back to where we were 4 years ago. To my friends in business, you don't need to be a great leader to identify issues, because every single one of you could come up to me right now and give me a list of 200 issues. But you do need good leadership to be able to take those issues on board, find solutions, and most importantly, deliver the solutions. So I am the only mayoral candidate, in my view, and my humble view, that has a plan that offers real solutions that will continue to deliver opportunities for Redlands. I am the only mayoral candidate that has a proven record on which to stand. In fact, I'm probably one of the only politicians that's delivered everything they've said they're going to deliver. Excusing my friends in the room who are ex-politicians, Michael. But look, being honest with you, to deliver any pledge I make to you today, I have to have a supportive council. The Mayor has 1 vote out of 11. And we must respect the independence of every candidate, but to serve the city, we need to be united. I can tell you, hand on heart, every major decision of this council has been done with a full council. Every single one. They're in the minutes, get online. But clearly, there are people that don't like the decisions. I appreciate that, but we have to move on and respect democracy in action. But with all that in mind, you have my commitment that I will do my very best to lead a united council should I be re-elected on the 19th of March. And to do that, we can then deliver on my 5-point plan, provide training and education opportunities. You tell me that's important. You tell me we need a university or tertiary education in this city so our kids don't have to go to St Lucia or to Pelton Grove every day. We're currently negotiating with the Commonwealth Government to acquire land at Burketown. That will be a great incentive for us to deliver a university. Not to mention the work that's already being done with Surf Life Saving Queensland, training opportunities in the Centre of Excellence for Emergency Management. And of course, the great work that we've done with AITC, there's plenty more opportunities there. Keeping the cost of living low, that's my number 2 pledge to you. You understand as business people the fragile economy that we live in, both nationally and locally. We live in uncertain times, and there are always going to be fluctuations in employment, commodity prices, and business confidence. And so we need to make sure in uncertain times you have certain leadership. I have to say, and probably in direct contrast to my mayoral opponent, that timeframes are important. Absolutely, to every one of you. You want to know when the government's going to make a decision, how it's going to go in the short term, not the long term. You don't want to wait 5 years for a no, and nor do you want to wait 6 or 7 years for a yes. They are important. They mean money to you. Anyone that's invested in anything realises the quicker you turn around the results, the quicker you can start getting a return on your investment. So I've maintained that I'll keep the cost of living low as best as I can within my control. We'll keep the dumps free. We'll look for other fees and charges that affect your businesses, remove them, or actually better deliver the services required. We need to create a new economy. We are living on the cusp of a very different world globally. Here in Redlands, we have to admit we're part of a global economy. Just last week, I wrote to the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, and I asked him to consider Redlands to be an innovation hub or cluster. We're talking about the Thornlands Integrated Employment Area or Innovation Employment Area. There's a great opportunity for us not only to provide employment in the new economy, but also to bring forward what you tell me is important, which is internet connectivity. One of the top 3 reasons businesses leave our cities because they can't be connected with the world. And if we give a reason for NBN or whatever it might be to connect you to the world, we should definitely pursue that, because that's the roads of the future. It's not just about the bitumen, it's about internet connectivity. Of course, the employment through the priority development areas will be key. And we've talked about that already. We've got a Redlands City Council Economic Development Board ready to go and explore new economic opportunities that brings experience from all over the world. We need to connect our city. Number 4. I've talked about NBN and how important it is for us to be connected. We need to upgrade our main arterial roads. Unfortunately, yes, we have projects that will deliver on our own local roads and improve that congestion. But the fact is, most of the congestion that people tell me about is on state-owned roads. And last night I was here with Rotary Club and an economist, Michael Knox, who was talking about the fact that local government, municipal governments are the people that will drive productivity, because now the state government doesn't invest in infrastructure, and particularly not in this city. I don't know if you've just seen the infrastructure plan, but Redlands is zilch. The only thing in that particular plan that we can grab onto is market-led proposals. And we're already down the road talking to ministers about how we can bring private enterprise, government together to make sure the roads such as Cleveland-Redland Bay Road are fixed. It's out of the box, but it's our only chance. And we can do all we like on our local government roads, but until we fix those major arterials in and out of the city, we're going to still have the same problems with congestion. Let me just make it clear that our proposal is not a gift to the state, it's an incentive. And let me remind you that of all the projects we've spoken about today, the state government over the next 20 years will gather probably around $1 billion worth of stamp duty. Well, as sure as I'm standing here, I'm going to make sure we get our fair share of that to fix the infrastructure that should have been fixed 20 years ago. That's the plan. Just also to get cars off the road, we need short-term fixes and long-term fixes. So I've committed with the support of council to Intra-City Circle Bus, a free bus to take cars off the road between our major centres, our hospitals, and our much-loved tourist destinations. And of course, it's a given that I'll continue to knock down the door of state government and federal government to make sure that we get our fair share of infrastructure investment such as the Eastern Busway and rail duplication. Enhancing the local environment. Our environment is obviously very important to the identity of our city, as is our community. So we need to make sure that we enhance our local environment and community space. And I'm committed to making sure we continue down that road. We'll continue to invest our money in a way with chlamydia vaccinations on koalas that helps koalas across the country, not just in Redlands. We're also in negotiation with the state government, and Michael Choi would be aware of this, to purchase of the DPI land at Alexander Hills. I see that as a great environmental opportunity and a community opportunity. We're already investigating opportunities for new sports facilities in the south of Redlands, and we can do that in partnership with some of the people that have actually got stakes in the south of Redlands. Let's talk about just quickly about the importance of what we're going to have at Toondah. We're going to have 4 times the amount of public open space at Toondah Harbour. We're going to have access to our water. We're going to have beaches. We're going to have marinas. The young people of this city want somewhere for them to be able to come together and celebrate what Redlands is all about. That's a huge opportunity. It's bringing me to the close of my presentation, and I know that I've got to be held on to task for being on time, so I apologise if I'm going over, but I just want you to know as business owners, I really do hope I've returned some confidence to this city over the last 4 years. It is energy, positive attitude, and I say positive with a capital P because too many times I hear people talking negatively about this beautiful part of the world. But it's energy, positive attitude and certainty and confidence that is required to drive investment and opportunities in this city. What you see with me is what you get. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. I have delivered on absolutely everything I committed to delivering and stayed the course despite the opposition over the last 4 years. Redlands is now on the map, not just on the weather map. We are now being asked to come along to those regional debates and talk about how important we are to Queensland and to southeast Queensland. But let me tell you, I have not just waited for the boat to come in to grab those opportunities. Not that I'm a very good swimmer, but I'm determined, but I swim out to get those opportunities and catch them. And Surf Life Saving Queensland is just one example of that. Also the Health and Wellness Precinct. We have 2 major hospitals, let's leave a job that we're already planning to build facilities around that. I'm getting my mind up, aren't I? Okay, well look, I just quickly sum up, I'll go back to making sure that you understand that I have got a plan for the next 4 years and the next 40 years. I have a plan to deliver, not to just raise the issues. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrated the 8th anniversary of Redlands becoming a city. Should have had a cake, Gary. Yes, we resisted that change. We all love the Shire, we remember. No one more than me, because I was born in Capalaba. But the world has changed since I was born in Capalaba. My landline phone number has 2 more digits. I now have a mobile phone with 10 digits as well. We have new suburbs. Our young people no longer have to travel 2 hours to get a private education, like I did. The dummy man doesn't have to jump the fence to collect the waste anymore, we just flush. We don't have to travel to Wynnum or Stones Corner to buy our groceries. We can just turn on a tap and incredibly we have this beautiful Stradbroke water coming out of it. Growth of our city has brought all of these things to you and to me and to our kids. Sometimes we take that for granted. Benjamin Franklin wasn't entirely correct. It's not just death and taxes that are certain. Also unavoidable is change. And change and growth needs to be embraced. And it needs to be turned into opportunities for future generations. So if I'm voted as Mayor on the 19th of March 2006, my promise to you is to embrace that future, to change those challenges into opportunities, deliver solutions. And I ask you today, don't risk going back to the future. Keep Redlands on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Greg, would you mind coming up to the front as well? If Karen's going to get some water, I wonder why. Greg, pick them up here. Are we still on camera for this? Do we need to stand in a particular cross on the statue? This is not being recorded.
No, that's all right. The battery's almost flat, so we're about to pull it anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah. Now, there are a couple of rules here, kids. We've got a half an hour. We've got enough questions for 5 hours. You stand over here, Karen. And the indicia of person who has got the ability to speak will be whoever holds the microphone. And I have the power to retrieve the microphone when I think the question's been answered, you're warbling on, or it's been said. And if I offend either of you in so doing, that's the job. People say I'm very good at that. The first question, and it's addressed to both of you, is from Donald Trump, and it says, when are you going to build the wall to keep the New Zealanders out? Who's going to pay for it? Probably we couldn't ask that. Donald Trump isn't funny, is it? No. Okay. Now this is from Karen or Kevin Kennedy. I'm sorry if I got that name incorrectly. My ability to read your writing is obviously lacking. And I'd like to compliment everybody here on having brought their first grade handwriting with them today. So this is directed to both, and I'm going to give you no more than a minute each. I bet you don't have to use the whole minute, right? Okay. Do you have anything for charities like Cage who are trying to employ and get employment for the youth of the Redlands? And to give you a break from your marathon session, I'm going to give it to Greg first. Have you anything for charities like Cage who are trying to employ and get employment for the youth of Redlands?
Well, the youth of Redlands is very important. Unfortunately, I'm not inside the organisation at the moment, so I don't know what the charity breakup or what community organisations are achieving charities at the moment. I suspect that Cage would already be within the organisation in terms of getting assistance from council. I can recall in previous years it was. All I can say is that I'll look at that amongst other requests, and I'm presuming that the Cage is already involved with the council.
Thank you. They obviously apply for grants, etc., so they do get some funding. But one of the things that I committed to in 2012 was delivering the bulky waste collection service. You might remember that curbside collection. We've actually now agreed to what is a bulky waste collection, which will work with social enterprise. So social enterprise such as the Cage will be able to tender for this, and what they will do will be an on-demand bulky waste collection. So you'll ring up and we'll be training young people who are unemployed to answer phones and to pick up all your furniture or whatever it might be, do the logistics, and then work with men's sheds to fix it and then resell it to create a sustainable social enterprise. So that's one of the examples of where the Cage, I'm hoping, will be approached to do that tender and give them opportunity not only to earn money, but to engage their young people and give them skills and opportunities.
Thank you. I'm learning. Fill the spaces available. This is a question to both of you, couched slightly different, but I'll throw it all into one question. It's from Sandra Pegler. Explain what you mean by restoring the balance, and what two things are you going to balance? Do you mean financial balance or environment versus economic progress? Greg.
Those two things aren't exclusive of each other. The environment and the economy do work hand in hand. It's part of the triple bottom line. Clearly, we need to protect our environment to make Redlands continue to allow people to enjoy what we enjoy here. Certainly for me, restoring the balance is maintaining that triple bottom line, because if our kids don't have jobs and we have an ageing population, we can't afford to maintain the environment to the level that we currently do. We've got 7,779 pieces of land that council owns, and we have to maintain it. It costs about $11 million a year. So the economy does come into maintaining that. So for me, the balance is about jobs, it's about future opportunities, it's about the environment, because all of those things go hand in hand.
I guess because it's one of my, I guess you could say my pledge is to return the balance. And my view is that livability is being lost. And what I want to try and do is turn that around and make certain we have a concentrated effort to retain environmental corridors and livability results in terms of the way applications are approved to get better results. In a nutshell, that's what I think the balance is.
Thank you. Now, the next question is by a chap by the name of, can't read his writing either, John McCarthy. What is your view of the ideal population of Redlands City and the population growth rate?
Well, as you know, I think I mentioned that we don't actually control population, and the state government have got some figures that they bandy around, and 50,000 is one that we're currently been working on as the state has, through the ACT regional plan, has determined. They just reviewed that. It hasn't been adopted, so it could be less, but it can also be more. Our job is to make sure we plan for growth and do it as the state sees is going to be forecast for our area. And the question is, where do you want them to be? Do you want them to have bigger yards, or do you want infill? Because you can't have both. You can't sort of think you're going to maintain the size lots you have in Redlands when you know that 50,000 people are coming to Redlands. So you either have infill, or you look at other ways of delivering the opportunities for people in the future. And we know why people want to come to Redlands. That's why we're all here. We love it. It's beautiful. It's 30 kilometres away from the third largest city. So we can't stick our head in the ground. We've just got to make sure that we can balance that lifestyle that you've come used to and provide for future generations.
I don't think that we need to turn ourselves into a Brisbane suburb. And that's a major point of difference between Councillor Williams and myself. The southern areas of the rural parts of the city, if the state government perhaps has its way and we agree, then you will put housing over all the balance areas of the city. Now, the opportune time is now, because clearly the state, as Aaron admits, we both know, there's not much money coming from the state for roads. Their roads or their transport systems, they're going to be concentrating outside of this area because their need is going to be greater, so therefore we aren't going to get much money. So now's the time to have the debate and say, you can't provide the infrastructure, so we should be looking very closely at how much more people we take in this area.
Just from the rate of growth, over the last 20 years, Redlands grew at 2.8%. It's now around 1% or lower, so growth has slowed. And growth will continue to slow because we don't have the land available. The rural area of our city is still really important, and we're not proposing in this plan at least to do anything differently to what's already in the current plan, aside from what has been approved by government.
Generally speaking, the market dictates the increase in populations in the area. So whether you look at the last 4 years or the last 8 years, it's reflected on the market. What I'm saying is that we need to change how we plan the rest of the area. That means that at some stage, you will start to reduce down because not just the market is influencing things, the council's planning.
Thank you. These are a couple of specifics on funding of infrastructure. I'll read both questions together. You might be able to group them. First one is, how is council going to fund the necessary infrastructure, both soft and hard, particularly roads such as Victoria Point Bypass, which is Worthing Road, and the proposition to channel state main roads traffic, I think this is you, Greg, state main roads traffic away from the main roads and onto local road networks through Springacre Road Bypass. How is that different to spending money on main roads? What you are taking their traffic because they have not upgraded as required. What about the wildlife in Epirapa? That's to you. I'll give you that to read while Karen answers the earlier one, which is the necessary infrastructure funding, particularly Victoria Point Bypass at Worthing Road.
So, council, and this where it becomes very technical and why planning is such a complex topic to discuss, but council, through state legislation, does actually collect priority infrastructure charges. So the development that you see that has been proposed or is happening, we're actually collecting funding for. So currently, I think we have about $17 million in our cash reserves, which is part of that $134 million I referred to earlier, that allows us to start delivering on roads. So that's money that's already in the kitty to start doing that work. My question is, do you want to have two separate roads going through Epirapa, or do you in fact want to make sure that you want one effective road and that you can collaborate with other industry, with our private enterprise to deliver that at a much less cost, more efficiently in a time frame that means we're not duplicating works, etc. So to me, it'll be a great savings if we can collaborate with private industry to deliver on one really good road.
Well, the point is that Karen doesn't actually understand the road infrastructure plan. That's right. The plan was done about 10 years ago jointly with Main Roads and Council, and it revolves around the main roads and the trunk council roads working together. So the system that actually is the Springacre double jump road system works in harmony with the state road upgrade system. That applies right across the whole city. And that funding comes from developers. Some years ago when I was there, we were collecting $44,000 per allotment from developers. Now the state government has come inside in the last few years and set $25,000 cap. So a lot of the money that's come in has come in previous years. Currently it's coming in at a lower rate of $25,000, but clearly that's a good sum of money. And that's why council has cash reserves from those monies collected. Those monies should be invested in our own local road system and our own park systems and not to give to main roads. We keep the pressure on the main roads about doing their work. Eventually that money will come over a slow period of time, I'm sure, but introducing our own network, which actually helps that main road system, is the best way to get congestion results soon.
Thank you, Greg. The next question is